Success is making you sick. You don't crash, you vanish. Quietly, elegantly, while still performing. That's how high performers burn out, not with failure, but with silence. No one sees it coming because you never drop the ball. You just drop yourself. Inside, the fire's been gone for months, but your smile still shows up on time. Your inbox is cleared, your goals are hit, and no one suspects that you're barely holding on to the edge. Because the better you perform, the harder it is to say, I'm not okay. This is how it begins. You're exhausted, not from the work itself, but from the performance, from the constant quiet pressure to be on, even when no one's watching. You move through your days like a perfectly rehearsed scene, polished, predictable, efficient. But inside, something's unraveling. And what makes it harder is you can't justify it. There's no obvious reason to feel this way. You're not behind, you're not failing. You're doing what everyone else applauds. And still, there's this aching emptiness that follows you everywhere, into meetings, into late-night emails, into the silence of your own home. It's not burnout in the way people talk about. It's something softer, more invisible. Like your soul has been slowly leaking out through all the little ways you've tried to hold everything together. You feel guilty for needing rest, ashamed for feeling lost. But the truth is you haven't had a real pause in years. You're tired of optimizing, tired of always having to be better, tired of living a life that looks strong on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. And maybe the hardest part is that you don't know how to explain it without sounding ungrateful. Because from the outside, you're the one who's made it. But inside, you can barely breathe. You're not lazy. You're not dramatic. You're just carrying more than anyone can see. The pressure to succeed, the fear of slowing down, the quiet panic that if you stop, even for a second, everything might collapse, including the version of yourself you worked so hard to become. So you keep going, smiling, performing, achieving, all while wondering silently, why does it feel like I'm disappearing? Here's what no one tells you about high performers. It's not ambition that drives you, it's fear. Not fear of failure exactly, but fear of what it would mean about you if you slowed down, if you didn't deliver, if you stopped being the reliable one but didn't. Because somewhere along the way, being excellent became your shield, the place where you felt safe. And now you can't imagine who you'd be without it. So you chase results not just to succeed, but to survive. You build structures around your pain, routines, calendars, metrics, because control feels like the only thing keeping you from falling apart. And when you do feel tired, lost, unmotivated, you don't ask what you need. You just tell yourself to push harder, to be better, to get over it. But the truth is, you're not okay. Not because you are weak, but because you've built a life that doesn't leave room for your own humanity. You've taught yourself to treat rest like a reward, slowness like failure, stillness like a threat. And the cost of that isn't just burnout, it's emotional invisibility. You stop recognizing your own needs. You override your instincts. You ignore the whispers of your body, your mind, your spirit, until those whispers turn into screams. And even then, you keep going. Because you've convinced yourself that being tired is normal, that feeling numb is just part of the game. You tell yourself it's just a phase, that things will ease up next week, that after this deadline, this goal, this quarter, you'll finally catch your breath. But you never do, because the real problem isn't the pace, it's the pressure. It's the belief that your worth is earned through performance, that the only way to be enough is to keep producing proof. You're not inconsistent, you're not ungrateful, you're scared. Scared that if you stop being exceptional, you'll lose the love, the respect, the identity that came with it. You're scared to build something slowly because the last time you gave your all, you burned out and no one noticed. Or worse, no one cared. And maybe deep down, you don't want to succeed anymore. Not because you're lazy, but because you're tired of climbing ladders that only lead to higher walls. Tired of creating from emptiness. Tired of being on for everyone but yourself. And maybe you've even started sabotaging things. Not out of failure, but out of quiet rebellion. Because some part of you knows this version of success is costing too much. Not just your energy, but your joy, your softness, your sense of self. And that's the part of you that's finally speaking up. Not to destroy what you've built, but to save what's left of you underneath it. There's a reason this keeps happening. And it's not because you're broken, it's because your nervous system is trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. See, your body doesn't just react to stress, it remembers it, not as a story, but as a sensation. So even when things seem calm on the outside, your system might still be running an old script, the one that says you have to earn your safety, that you have to keep moving, producing, achieving, or else you'll be abandoned, judged, forgotten. It's not a conscious belief, it's survival wiring. We learn it young. Maybe your worth was measured by how much you could do. Maybe being the responsible one got you love or kept the peace. Over time, that becomes more than a habit. It becomes your identity. Alfred Adler talked about this in a way that hits hard. He said, we don't just have personalities, we have goals. Not external goals like make six figures or run a company, but emotional goals like don't be rejected or stay valuable. And everything we do, from our confidence to our breakdowns, serves that deeper goal. So if your emotional goal is to avoid disappointment, you might push yourself past your limits just to prove you're still worthy. And when you feel yourself slowing down, your system panics, not because you're lazy, but because rest feels like risk. That's why burnout hits high performers so hard. You don't see it as your body asking for care. You see it as failure, as proof you're slipping. But really, it's your nervous system flipping between fight, flight, and freeze. You start in fight mode, powering through, staying up late, doing more. Then comes flight, fantasizing about quitting, switching careers, escaping everything. And eventually freeze, where nothing excites you, your thoughts go flat, and even tiny tasks feel impossible. It's not a character flaw. It's a trauma response. And what makes it tricky is that the world rewards it. You get praise for being driven, for staying calm under pressure, for never needing help. No one sees that your success is built on self-abandonment, that behind every achievement is a body begging for rest, a mind stretched thin, a soul slowly dimming. Emotional memory plays a role too. If you've failed before and felt shame, your body remembers that. So now, even trying something new can feel like a threat, not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is bracing for old pain. It's like touching a stove that once burned you. Even if it's off now, your hand still flinches. That's what high-functioning burnout really is, a life of constant flinching. You keep going, but never fully relax. You keep showing up, but never feel home. And maybe the scariest part is you don't know how to stop. Because stopping would mean facing the feelings you've been outrunning for years, feelings of inadequacy, of grief, of not knowing who you are without the performance. But here's what no one tells you. Your system isn't the enemy. It's trying to protect you the best way it knows. The problem is it's using an outdated map, a map where your worth is conditional, a map where burnout is just the price of being enough. And it's time to rewrite that, not by pushing harder, but by listening deeper. Because healing doesn't happen when you force your way forward. It happens when you finally feel safe enough to stop running. Imagine a candle inside a glass lantern burning quietly in the middle of a storm. From the outside, it looks strong, contained, even elegant. The glass doesn't crack. The frame holds. People pass by and admire the glow, assuming it's safe, assuming it's fine. But no one notices how hard that flame is working just to stay alive. How every gust of wind, every shift in the weather threatens to snuff it out. And the worst part? The glass doesn't just keep the storm out. It keeps warmth from getting in. That's what being a high performer often feels like. You're the lantern, shining, stoic, self-contained. You learn to keep your chaos elegant, your exhaustion hidden, your fear domesticated into productivity. People see the light you give off, but not the burn it costs you to stay lit. You're praised for being resilient, admired for how you never flicker, never falter. But inside, that flame is thinning, growing quieter, Because no matter how beautiful the lantern is, fire needs air. And what you've been calling discipline might actually be suffocation. You can't ask for help without feeling like a burden. You can't slow down without fearing the collapse of everything you've built. So you perform, you glow, you endure. And people call it strength, but it's not strength. It's containment. It's survival masked as poise. You've learned how to carry fire in silence, how to look lit up even as your inner world dims. And somewhere along the way, you forgot that you weren't meant to live inside a glass case, admired, controlled, untouchable. You were meant to breathe, to be messy, to burn freely, wildly in open air. But you've been so trained to be palatable, predictable, productive, that now even freedom feels like a threat. You wonder what would happen if you cracked, if the glass broke, if the light flickered out. Would anyone notice? Would anyone care? Or worse, would they finally see how fragile it really was all along? That your glow wasn't ease, it was effort. That your stillness wasn't peace, it was exhaustion. That your shine wasn't joy, it was survival. And that's the secret pain of high-functioning burnout. You're not collapsing because you're weak. You're collapsing because you were never meant to carry this much alone. And no one told you that fire, no matter how beautiful, still needs tending, still needs breath, still needs care. Not admiration, not applause, just space to be real, to be human, to be held without having to glow for it. What if you were never lazy, never broken, never failing to keep up, but just tired of holding yourself together in ways no one ever saw? What if your burnout wasn't a flaw, but a signal, a quiet whisper from the deepest parts of you saying, I can't keep living like this? Because maybe you weren't resisting growth. You were resisting collapse, resisting the heartbreak of building another version of yourself only to watch it get hollowed out again. You don't need more discipline. You need gentleness. You need to make peace with the version of you who performed through pain, who smiled through stress, who chased excellence not for joy, but for safety. That version of you was doing the best they could with what they knew. They were trying to belong in a world that only applauded you when you were useful. And that's not your fault. Somewhere along the line, success got tangled with survival. Rest started feeling like risk, and being seen became something you only allowed when you were at your best. But healing doesn't come from pushing that version of you away. It comes from honoring them, from recognizing that even your burnout was a form of love, a last-ditch effort from your body to get your attention, to say slow down, to say come home. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to forgive the part of you that thought being on all the time was the only way to be loved. You need to unlearn the belief that your worth depends on your output. Because the truth is, you were never meant to shine for others at the cost of dimming yourself. You were never meant to build an identity that only thrives when you're exhausted. It's okay to change. It's okay to let go of the persona that got you here. And it's okay if you don't have a perfect plan moving forward. Clarity doesn't always come first. Sometimes it arrives after rest, after softness, after enough nights where you let yourself just be. No productivity, no performance, no pretending. You're allowed to be human here. You're allowed to not know. You're allowed to want something gentler than ambition. And you're allowed to start again. Not from pressure, but from peace. You are here, and that's already enough for today. You've been moving through life like a checklist, accomplishing, fixing, proving, performing, always thinking about the next step, the next version of you, the next thing you should be doing better. So much of your worth has been tied to forward motion that even the idea of stillness feels unfamiliar, almost suspicious. But here's the truth. Healing doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like breathing. Sometimes it looks like stopping in the middle of your week, your month, your moment, just to feel your feet on the ground again. That's what this is. A soft return, a gentle reminder that your value didn't disappear just because your energy did. Maybe your body has been whispering to you for a while now. In headaches, in shallow breathing, in the quiet ache in your chest when you wake up and feel more dread than drive. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system gently telling you it's been carrying too much for too long. Your system isn't broken. It's just been over-functioning for years without rest. It has kept you alive through impossible expectations. It has adapted, performed, and sacrificed in silence. But now it's tired. And tired is not the same as lazy. Burnout is not a character defect. It's a sign that you've been loyal to survival for far too long, that your inner world has been put on pause so the outer world wouldn't notice anything was wrong. But you're allowed to notice now. You're allowed to sit in this space without needing to get something out of it. No transformation, no breakthrough, just stillness, just breath, just being. You don't need to overthink this moment. In fact, the moment doesn't need anything from you. It's already holding you exactly as you are, even if you feel numb, even if you feel far away from yourself. That's okay. This is the moment where you don't have to pretend, where you don't have to be productive or inspiring or articulate. You don't have to be strong right now. You just have to be real. Notice your shoulders. Let them drop just a little. Notice your jaw. Is it clenched? What would it feel like to let it go? Feel your body soften by even 1%. Let yourself sink into the chair, the floor, the gravity of this moment. There is no prize for rushing your healing. No finish line for coming back to yourself. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply here, relearning what it means to exist without the constant pressure of becoming. Maybe that's the most sacred work you'll ever do. Because the truth is, you don't need to be at your best to be loved. You don't need to be fully healed to be worthy. You don't need to be lit up with purpose every morning to be seen. There's no version of you that's more deserving of care than the one sitting here right now. You've spent so long trying to arrive somewhere, trying to become the person who finally feels okay. But maybe okay isn't somewhere you arrive. Maybe it's a place inside you that gets quieter, softer, more reachable. Every time you give yourself permission to be enough without earning it. It's okay if this feels unfamiliar. Slowness often does, especially when you've been rewarded your whole life for moving fast, fixing problems, holding it all together. But the truth is your softness isn't a liability. It's a portal to everything you have been missing while performing strength, to everything your body and mind have been craving while you've kept sprinting. Underneath the burnout, there is still a self that is whole, not perfect, not polished, but deeply worthy. And you don't have to wait until you feel better to return to that self. You can do it now. One breath at a time. So maybe this is where you begin again. Not with a plan, not with a to-do list, but with a pause, a moment of real connection with yourself, with the stillness, with the part of you that's been waiting quietly to be acknowledged. Maybe you put your hand on your chest. Maybe you whisper, "I'm still here." Maybe that's enough. Maybe it always was. And if all you do after this video is drink water, lie down, or cry for the first time in weeks, that's not failure. That's aliveness. That's healing in real time. You don't need to bounce back. You're not a rubber band. You're a human being. Tender, complex, and worthy of a life that doesn't burn you out just to prove you're good. You are here, not where you were, not where you think you should be. Just here, and that's enough. Let it be enough. Let you be enough, just for today, just for now, and maybe, slowly, that will start to feel true. Which part of this felt like it was written for you? The part where the fire dimmed, but you kept glowing anyway? Or the moment you realized exhaustion wasn't weakness, it was your body begging for gentleness? If something in this found you where you are, maybe let it stay with you. Maybe save it for the days when the silence gets loud again. And if someone you love has been carrying more than they let on, maybe send this to them too. No pressure. Just a quiet reminder they're not alone. And neither are you.